The moment you realize that most people don't care is the moment you free yourself from performing for an audience that was never even watching. Hi ladies, welcome back to the Feminine Universe. I am so happy to have you here. We've all had a moment where we catch ourselves overthinking, over-explaining, or over-performing to avoid judgment, gain approval, or to just keep the peace. I know this because we're all human, and to some extent, we all care what people think. We're social creatures who learn, compare, and grow based on the people around us. But when caring turns into caring too much, it can actually start ruining your life. It can manifest as doing things you may not want to do for the sake of approval. Or it might look like not doing things you may actually want to try in order to avoid ridicule or criticism. And that can fuel a lifetime of people-pleasing, over-explaining, and a constant fear of taking action. And unfortunately, it seems that women often bear this burden even more in society. Maybe it's because we're biologically wired for group cohesion, which can be a good thing in moderation, but when taken to the extreme, it actually begins to harm you and hold you back. But no matter what version of this you might deal with, today we're going to put that in its place, because in this video, I'm going to give you my 3-step process on how to stop caring what people think. So if you're ready to break free from that cycle and actually live the life you want, let's get started. Step number 1 is to realize no one cares. I mean, the very first step to stop caring what people think is to zoom out, look at the big picture, and realize that no one cares. Or to put it a little more gently, realize how little people care. My mom taught me this when I was very young, and even though I know it sounds a little harsh, it's so true and it's life-changing. So hear me out. She would say, if something happened to you tomorrow, who would be the most affected? Who would lose sleep? Who wouldn't be able to eat? Who would drop everything to check on you, to be with you, or to look for you? Those are the people who truly care about you. And that handful of people are the ones whose opinions should carry any real weight in your life. Everyone else, they're just passing through. They're mostly interacting with you out of convenience or proximity. Classmates, co-workers, neighbors, they can all be perfectly nice people that you can have some great moments with. But when you graduate, switch jobs, or move, most of those connections will fade. And that's not a bad thing, and they are not bad people. It's just real life, and we're all just human. Everyone's fighting their own mental battles, and that is freeing once you can see it clearly. Most people are too busy managing their own immediate lives, dealing with their own problems, their fears and insecurities, to care deeply about you and what you're doing. And realizing this isn't meant to make you cynical or bitter. It's meant to set you free. Because here is the beautiful thing about humans. We're wired for reciprocity. Remember, we've discussed that most people are matchers. We're wired to treat people the way they treat us. So once you can really accept that most people don't care that much, then you can also give yourself permission to care less about what they think. Realizing that there are very few people whose lives would be permanently altered if you were suddenly gone will really help you start getting comfortable with the fact that their opinions should not matter all that much to you. The moment you realize that most people don't care is the moment you free yourself from performing for an audience that was never even watching or was never truly invested. And now tip number 2 to stop caring what people think is to focus more on yourself. One of the best ways to stop caring what other people think is to pay significantly more attention to yourself. If you want your garden to grow, it's not that you just have to stop watering your neighbor's garden, but you also have to actually start watering yours. And though it sounds obvious, a lot of people forget this part. And that's why you'll see them go from being overly invested in men, then pulling back, but then being overly invested in friends, then pulling back, and then getting overly invested in a job that also drains them. And that's because the man, the friends, the job, they weren't the problem. They were just the symptoms. The problem is the lack of self-focus. Remember that saying, where attention goes, energy flows. So if your attention is on other people, their opinions will naturally start to feel bigger and more important than they actually are. But when you redirect that energy back to yourself, to your goals, your growth, your peace, everything else shifts. You start to become the main character in your own life again. So realize it's not just about withholding your energy from others, but it's about giving your energy a purpose by pouring into yourself. And when you give your energy a purpose, that's when you stop getting lost in distractions. Because here's the thing I want you to remember. Your attention has to go somewhere regardless. It doesn't just sit still. So if you don't intentionally decide where to place it, it will continue to drift toward whatever is around you, whether that's other people, relationships, drama, gossip, comparison, and so on. So when I say focus on yourself, I don't mean check in with yourself here and there. I mean get truly, madly, deeply focused on yourself. Actively make the choice to focus on you. Focus on your goals and your schedule. Focus on your pampering routine, your self-care, and your workouts. Focus on your meals, your weekly menu, your upcoming trips, your upcoming purchases. Focus on dinner dates with friends and phone calls with loved ones. Can you see how much there is to focus on when you are the subject matter? And remember, you don't have to make this overwhelming. You can start with one thing and work your way up from there. Maybe start with that workout plan, or start doing your morning routine again. Plan your next solo date, or just plan some time to connect with people who refill your cup. The more you focus on yourself and your goals, the less space you have left to worry about what anyone else thinks. When your eyes are focused on your own finish line, you don't have the time or the desire to look left or right. Which brings me to our last step. Step 3, to stop caring what people think, is always consider the source. People who are genuinely busy, fulfilled, productive, and at peace rarely spend their time judging others. That kind of criticism almost always comes from boredom, insecurity, or lack of purpose. Let's look at it like this. Think back to the busiest season of your life. Maybe you were studying for a major exam, trying to start a business, planning your wedding, or working overtime to make ends meet. During that time, whatever it was, were you sitting around obsessing about other people and picking apart everything they were doing? Probably not, because you were too busy handling your own life. And that's exactly the point. The people who have time to nitpick, gossip, and criticize are usually the ones doing the least in their own lives. Because people who are busy, people who are building, creating, and growing, they're not spending what little free time they have tearing others down. They either don't even notice you because they're buried in their own work, or they give you that quiet nod of respect because they know how hard it is to try. And if they're feeling really generous, they might offer you a few words of advice and encouragement that could save you time on your journey. And even if there's some criticism involved, it's very clearly constructive criticism to help you do better, not to demoralize you and make you want to give up altogether. So when someone criticizes you, remind yourself, if they were doing more than you, they probably wouldn't be spending time judging you. And if they're probably doing less than you, why would their opinion hold weight to you? When you remember that, their criticism loses its power. You stop internalizing noise from people who you wouldn't trade places with anyway. And as you stay focused on your goals, instead of allowing every whisper of criticism to derail you, you'll find that you actually keep going. and that you're not just starting things, but you're finishing them. And as you keep reaching goals and you keep stacking achievements, those voices naturally get quieter. And even when certain voices do still pop up with judgment or criticism, you start realizing that they don't matter because they're not coming from people you admire or aspire to be like. So never let small minds talk you out of big dreams. When it comes to opinions, judgment, criticism, or any other kind of input, always, always, always consider the source. There you have it, my love. 3 steps that will help you stop caring what people think. And remember, you didn't become this way overnight, so it's okay if it doesn't change overnight either. But these tools will definitely shift something in your mind and help you get on the right path. Remember that most people don't care that much. What you choose to focus on determines your peace. So focus on yourself. And the loudest critics in the room usually have the least to show for it. When you live by that, you'll stop needing approval and start building genuine self-respect. And here's what's really interesting. When you learn to stop caring the right way, people actually start noticing you more. Because this is not about belittling people or isolating yourself. When you stop caring the right way, you actually let people into the spaces where it's warranted. But when it comes to your sacred spaces and your sacred decisions, you have the final word. So drop right way in the comments if you're ready to see that. Because while doing this the wrong way will push people away, there's something about that grounded, self-contained energy when you do it the right way that's so irresistibly attractive that it pulls people in without trying. So in the next video, we could break down exactly why people seem to get obsessed with you when you stop caring what they think, and how to show that without ever crossing into arrogance or belittling behavior. Because yes, we can be confident and warm. Until next time, ladies, stay feminine, stay focused, and have fun.